Good OGC evening, brothers, tourists, and ladies alike, and welcome to the first episode of the Chapter House, where we get to meet with representatives from each of the Old Glory Club's chapters each week at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. So in 26 weeks, all chapters from 20 represented states will be spoken to. And by the time we get there, I'm sure we'll have many, many more. Joining me tonight is the president of the Vetus Dominium chapter out of Virginia, Harvey Wallbanger. How are you, Harvey?
I'm great, Curtis. Thanks for having me on.
Great to have you, man. Also joining us all the way from a lesser-known city in Virginia known as Cardassia, Marshall Ducat, the vice president.
That's right. Thank you very much, Curtis. I appreciate the introduction.
Oh yeah, of course. How can we forget? You've got the very Cardassian physiognomy, as we say. So, guys, Vetus Dominium, what does it mean?
Well, the name is Latin for Old Dominion. And if y'all were doing your homework and watched the stream earlier this week, the Albion Seed stream on the new American Spirits live stream, you will know that it comes from the Cavalier settlers of Virginia that were loyal to the crown in the English Civil War. The Old Dominion referring to the dominion of King James at the time.
That's right. Charles II actually granted the title of Old Dominion to Virginia, and the Virginia Cavaliers, which are the athletic teams of the University of Virginia, the word Cavalier was the nickname for the supporters of Charles II. And then, of course, Virginia has a public university called Old Dominion University.
Very interesting. So this was a pre-revolution name that is still honored in Virginia today. I did not know that was something Virginians still looked back to.
Well, yes, we take special care to our unique history. This colonial period is very near and dear to our hearts, and it definitely influenced the naming of our chapter in that regard.
Yeah, so this actually brings up an interesting point, and some say, they whisper, that this is not a coincidence, that on top of being the very first state of the United States, the Vetus Dominium chapter was the very first chapter of the Old Glory Club. How did you guys get in so quickly to have that distinction for yourselves?
Well, fact check, true. We are the first. And I should say, it was mostly me, the galvanizing individual, that organized the founding members together with excessive motivation from Paul Fahrenheit, kind of lighting a fire under my butt to beat the perfidious Yankees in the new Ivy League to being the first chapter. We had met each other at previous conferences, meetups, etc., in the wider sphere of things. And then when the Old Glory Club launched their chapter initiative, I believe that was in the summer of 2023, I came home from that conference and I had gathered the friends that I had made in the years since. And I said, hey guys, we got to do it. We got to do it.
Yeah, Harvey was definitely the driving factor here. Not that I was against the decision, obviously, being a founding member, but he was the one who drove us all together to form this chapter, and I'm really glad that he did.
And of course, I had a certain level of familiarity with the founders of the Old Glory Club itself, so it was an easy decision on their part, I hope, to admit us into being the first founded chapter. You there, buddy? Please stand by. We are experiencing technical difficulties with our host. So
that we are.
Yeah, we'll just keep going then. What, Mr. Ducat, what attracted you to joining me on this endeavor in forming the first Old Glory Club chapter?
I was thinking about that actually, Harvey, given the nature of this show. I thought you would ask me that. And I think that, there's been a lack of sort of what we would call third spaces, civic society, for people like us, right? I mean, if you get involved in those organizations that do exist, you will find them to be mostly filled with boomers and mostly nothing more than a drinking club, occasionally doing some other things, but really lacking in specifically the demographics that we have, which we skew more towards younger, 20s, 30s, 40s guys. And I really felt, especially the past year, I've really felt strongly that that's really important. That it's not to generate the boomers. It's to say, look, we are a different generation, sometimes multiple generations, but we're different generations. We're younger generations. We have a better understanding of the internet. We have a better understanding of the way society's going. And so we're going to take this new organization as opposed to taking over one of those existing organizations, and we're going to steer it where we want to go. And I thought that was a really good idea. I wanted to see where it would go. I mean, to be frank, when we first started this, I didn't really know what we were going to end up doing. I mean, it's brand new, right? You could literally do anything you want with it. But I really felt strongly on the civic society side, fraternal order, giving guys our age something to invest time, money, and blood, sweat, and tears into.
I agree with all of that and more. There was definitely something missing in my own life that compelled me to start this thing with you guys. All of my friends didn't care about politics. They didn't care about philosophy. They didn't care about doing anything in real life. We're just a bunch of gamers that were locked up in their mother's basement. And I think COVID was really the time period that made me reflect on that, my relationship with my friends. And I realized, if something got serious, I would need brothers to rely on and depend upon to help, get me out of a bad situation. And I just straight up did not have that. And so one of the things I wanted to build was definitely a mutual aid society, a patronage network with my friends, fostering a brotherhood where we can trust one another for our deepest times of need.
Right. You want to talk about your experience with Appomattox, Harvey? I mean, I played a part in that. I attended, but I don't really feel that I really helped out much with planning it or the execution of it. And, that was our first event, so to speak.
Yeah. So we do tours of historical sites throughout the whole state of Virginia. And our first major one, I believe it was in April of 24. So it only was last year, but it feels like it was way longer than that. And yeah, we got about 20 guys out to the site, toured around, saw the monuments, paid our respect to our ancestors. There's an excellent memorial, a panorama actually of, the moment where Lee signed the surrender and all the Confederate and Union generals and staff officers are standing around looking apprehensively at each other like, is this it? Is this the moment we finally can lay down our arms and begin reconciliation as brothers? And that moment really stuck out to me. Of course, then we just hiked around the battlefield itself and saw all the monuments. Shout out to the North Carolina boys. Their monument was the coolest. And there was also one monument in particular memorializing a single soldier who was the last recorded death in the battle prior to the cessation of hostilities in that theater. And, and it was like a 19-year-old kid who had just taken, one of those giant caliber musket shot bullets to the stomach and slowly bled out while the surrender was happening. So that was a bit morbid, sorry. But yeah, that's what I remember of Appomattox.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean, I remember most all that. One of the things I thought about, and I discussed this briefly with you before, one of the things I remember from the North Carolina Memorial was the vandalism, actually, that it was sadly vandalized. And it wasn't alone, I think, in terms of vandalism, with things written on the monuments. And one of the things that I would like to encourage our chapter, and then, by proxy, other chapters, is, acts of community service. I think it's very important to be active in your community. And when I say active, I mean essentially doing things, volunteering your time and your hands and your feet for the good of your community. And, something as simple as taking a day to clean up a cemetery that may have monuments in it that some people don't care for and have decided to deface, figuring out what you need to grab the materials to clean those up, I think would be a great thing to do. And it was something that I actually thought about while we were looking at it, because it made me pretty angry.
Yes. Yeah, I do recall that, there was something written in marker, I believe, on the monument itself, and I believe we cleaned that up as well.
Yeah.
What else did we do in 2024? Were there any other big ones? We kind of just chilled out for a while after that.
Yeah, I mean, you could say we were sort of figuring out what we wanted things to look like. We were, I don't want to say fumbling in the dark, it's probably too harsh, but we were...
It was a trial by fire to figure out what we wanted to do and how to do it.
But then we had earlier this year, we had the Lexington event, which was a huge success. I thought it was fantastic. Lexington, actually, both Appomattox and Lexington. My parents were never really big Virginia history buffs, unfortunately. That sort of fell to me, especially as I got older. So I'd actually never been to Appomattox or Lexington prior to traveling with you to these sites. So all of these were new experiences to me. Lexington, obviously, being a hugely important city for Virginia, having two different universities right next to each other. In the Virginia Military Institute, which is extremely important, has a ton of history, a ton of important graduates, and then Washington Lee, right next to it, which was the university that Lee essentially retired to after the end of the Civil War, after he gave up his command, and is buried there. And we got to see Lee's tomb there as well. Very interesting place. And we also toured a graveyard there as well, where Stonewall Jackson is buried.
Yeah, that was a wonderful tour hosted by our chapter member. In addition to various historical sites that we've been to and toured, we also like to engage in a little bit of civic service. A number of times we have had chapter members volunteer at soup kitchens or donation centers during the holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving. In a similar vein, we also contributed a little bit to the North Carolina relief effort for the disaster zone from Hurricane Helene. We were proud to contribute in any way we were able to, financially We had supplies go down there. We even had one of our chapter members drive his truck rig down there to deliver supplies. And yeah, that's something I want to keep expanding the capability in the future for disaster relief. And I think that is going to be a focus for all OGC chapters and the OGC in general.
All right. Yeah. Pardon the interruption. It wouldn't be an inaugural episode without some technical difficulties, but in keeping with the American excellence of the Old Glory Club, our two esteemed guests were obviously able to take care of that without issue. On the topic of the Hurricane Helene response, it was really owing to the Vetus Dominium chapter that we were able to really get people on the ground there as fast as we were. Some of us even stayed with some of the chapter members of the Vetus Dominium on the way to Hurricane Helene's relief zones. And this brings up, the purpose of the Old Glory Club, as I heard Marshall Ducat mentioning before, was that it's a brotherhood of getting people together and not just being doomers on the internet. And so, Harvey Ducat, I hope you could tell us a little bit about how is the structure and the kind of robustness of the brotherhood that the Vetus Dominium has been able to generate so far.
Let's say, well, that is a qualitative statement. I can't quantify, the level of brotherhood or fraternity, but I can only explain my own feelings in that I have a chapter full of members that I would die for, and I hope they return that level of loyalty to me. And 3 years ago rather, I didn't know a single one of them. And that's how fast it can happen, to build those bonds of loyalty and brotherhood.
Right. I think you've done a great job. I think it's very good. It's very, very tight knit. The only thing I would say is that when you have an expansion in members in a state where, you have a big geographic distance, it's going to be generally difficult to meet everyone, right? It's one thing to hang out with someone online, which we've all done many times. We're doing right now, essentially, right? We're not, I'm not at your guys' place. We're doing this remotely, and that's something that technology allows us to do pretty easily. It's quite another to spend a lot of hours with someone face to face, which I've done quite a bit with, obviously with Harvey here and with other members of the club, and I feel like that builds a different level of bond, and I hope to expand that. And I think that as time goes on, we're going to see. We've already seen, obviously, if you've been following the creation of chapters, we've seen 2 Virginia chapters created, sort of spin-offs of the Vetus Dominium, I would say, and that is the Bluestone chapter, and then the Stonewall chapter.
Put some respect on their name. It's the Bluestone Heritage League.
That's right,
the
Bluestone
Stonewall
Heritage
Society.
League and the Stonewall Society. Yeah, I didn't want to get those wrong. I thought those were their names. I didn't want to get them wrong off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So,
like he said, founding members of those chapters were also members of my chapter.
That's right.
Here in Vetus Dominium, and it became necessary for them to split off and do their own thing out of, just proximity. Distances were too inconvenient for regular meetups to happen. And obviously, there's so much history in Virginia. We got plenty to share and go around.
That's right. That's right.
That's wonderful. So here in the chapter house, we're also hoping that we can share tips with our fellow OGC members. And, some states are larger than others. In New England, most of the states are relatively small, but over a larger geographic area, it does become harder for people to get together on a regular basis. So to the idea that a larger state or a larger geographic area would break down into daughter chapters is one that we've explored in other places. How would you guys say your relationships are with your, I suppose, sister or brother chapters within your own state?
Very close. We talk to them basically every day. We're all in each other's chats. The distinction between chapters at this point is like purely organizational in nature. We're all talking to each other all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty natural, right? And I see it, and I speak for myself specifically in this matter, but I see it as sort of the Vetus Dominion is like the father chapter, and then you have these two that spawn off it that are just looking to have greater focus in their geographic area, because as we all know, these bonds of brotherhood are best formed when you're meeting in real life, when you're sitting next to a guy having a beer or talking for 3 hours about whatever happens to be. If you're going out and digging something together, or going to do disaster relief in North Carolina, whatever the case may be, when you're actually doing things, when you're just doing things in real life, that's really where you're going to build the memories that you can call upon to build these bonds of brotherhood.
Well, so this is also an interesting bit about the history of your chapter. Now, I'm wondering, was the Vetus Dominion always so geographically diverse across Virginia, or did you guys start out more centralized in just one area?
We were definitely centralized, and we somewhat remain centralized, especially now that we've spun off those daughter chapters. We're primarily located, I would say, in a 2-hour radius of Jamestown, and that is general enough not to get anybody in trouble. But yeah, if you're in the southeastern corner of Virginia, give us a shout. That's our neck of the woods. Bluestone Heritage League up in Northern Virginia, and the Stonewall Society is in the Shenandoah Valley.
So then this kind of leads into the next question. What was the recruitment process like that allowed you to get so many members across the state that necessitated breaking off into 3 separate chapters?
Honestly, it was pretty much organic merging of different friend groups, I would say. Like when I initially met John, sorry, you're gonna have to edit that out. Ducat here. He went to some parties kind of far away from where we live, met some new people, and then those people knew some people, and it just chains on, and suddenly I have a list of friends throughout the state, or friends of friends, who then are organized into do we think this person is a good fit for the club or not? What do they bring to the table? Can they keep their mouth shut about certain things? Is this a person I could consider a brother? That is probably the primary criteria. Can I consider you my brother? Do you have any other vetting questions like that you would bring up, Ducat?
Yeah, I think that's a good starting point. I think that, again, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but I feel that when you meet somebody in real life, or you talk to someone extensively, or you talk to someone who's met someone, sort of like a friend of a friend situation, you can get a real idea of sort of who that person is, the personality, how they tick, what makes them tick. And then you can get an idea of whether they will assimilate well into the group, so to speak. And each person brings in a different personality, and then a different set of things that they bring to the club, right? Whether it's their profession, their interests, their hobbies, their skills, the people that they know, a variety of different things that they bring to the rest of the club.
So one of the questions that we sometimes get throughout various chapters, and I think that this is almost what do the red pill guys say? It's almost a shit test. The question is, how many people have you turned down? Now, I'm not asking like if you guys have kept a list of potential applicants that didn't make the cut, but is your I guess the main question is your recruitment criteria such that you've already run into people who, you know, while you're okay with spending time with them, hanging out with them, being friends with them, but you didn't really believe that they were Vetus Dominium material?
Okay, when you define it like that, the number's actually pretty high. I don't even invite people to begin the onboarding process or vetting unless I already suspect that they are indeed club material. Probably other chapters do it differently, and especially recently we've been getting more and more, I guess you could say, cold contacts from people that are total unknowns from us, and those are a challenge in and of itself to fully vet those people. But yeah, it's definitely in the dozens of people in, you know, the social circles I run in regularly that are friends, right? But not chapter material.
That's right. And also, we've had since we've had an email inbox, we've had people submit various amounts of information to those mailboxes, which has been an adventure. You know, not everyone has the understanding, shall we say, of what essentially I was raised on, which was I would say in part by the internet and this idea of OPSEC, which predates, I would say, Twitter even, really goes back to the sort of Chan board days of being anonymous and just not putting all your information out there for anyone else to see. And some people don't really understand that concept, and it may be, I don't know, it may be an age thing, or maybe the people that are younger, even younger than the Zoomers, don't always have that same level of cautiousness. I don't really know what it is.
He's referring to people basically fully doxing themselves in an introductory email. And yeah, don't do that, please. And there is no age determination there. It's young Zoomers, the old boomers, and everyone in between have done that.
Yeah, this is something that we've seen replicated in other areas of the Old Glory Club, that obviously our membership requirement is an American male, 18 years or older and of good character. But our membership is from 18 to, I think we have some men in their 50s. We might even have some in their 60s. And now this brings up a question that I had I'm going to be asking this of every chapter, but you guys get to field it first. From the older men to the younger men, have you guys noticed mentorship kind of coalescing? And have you done anything to try to kind of foster that within your members?
This is definitely something I have noticed and I want to see more of. I haven't exactly figured out how to explicitly foster more of it. But yes, it is something that happens in the club. The older members kind of take a paternal role in the club, mentoring the younger guys on any number of topics. Could be, you know, questions about faith, questions about employment. That's another thing we'll get to. Yeah, why don't you take the rest of that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed it. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's an age gap thing, right? Some people are just built, I think, mentally and maybe even spiritually gifted to engage in mentorship like that. And we definitely have people with that talent in our chapter, and I've definitely observed it happening. I think it's happened a bit to me, although I'm probably on the older side of the chapter just generally, but I definitely observed it's happening, and I would say I'm pleased with the current level of it happening. So.
Well, that's great. Harvey had mentioned to me backstage that the Vetus Dominium had something like skills workshops that they were interested in. And this goes along with what you were talking about just now with employment and education of your members. So, Harvey, please do expand on what it was you were referring to.
Yes, I'm referring to only a single instance, but something we want to replicate and expand. Recently, I think this was like 2 or 3 months ago at this point, a chapter member opened up his property so that we could learn how to slaughter chickens. Only a couple members showed up to do it, but that kind of idea is awesome. We should be teaching each other skills, whether it be food preparation from raw materials, live chickens, any number of things, survival skills. We want to go to like stop the bleed courses, just leveling up your skills in any regard, increasing your value as a human being. It kind of relates to the second topic. All of us in the club are gainfully employed, thank the Lord, but that was not always the case. We were able to use our internal network as a method of finding and connecting members to employment opportunities. And I think that is a very big draw for people right about now, who, of our demographic that are purposefully excluded from the mainstream methods of employment. I was unemployed for 8 months last year. I'm very happy to say I'm in a position where that is never going to happen again.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. I also suffered unemployment under the Biden regime for a time, and that's no longer the case, thank God. Yeah, I mean, if you've tried to apply for a job in the past, I don't know, 2-3 years or so. I haven't since I was unemployed, but if you have, and Harvey will tell you, it's brutal out there. I don't really quite understand what happened. But something radically changed, I would say, from like 2022 to 2023 is when I observed it. And for remote jobs, which have their ups and downs, but the big plus of a remote job is that you don't have to worry about picking yourself up and moving. You can still remain in the community that you're in, and for us, the chapter that you're in. Remote jobs seem to be inundated with applications to the point where it's very difficult to even get someone to pick up the phone and give you an interview at times. So, a job is often about who you know, not what you can do. What you can do is second. So we're definitely in the who you know business.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of corner of the internet, in the waters in which we swim, you will find many posts about exactly that, the problems with employment, what's going on in the job market. And what you guys are really, the theme that it seems like you're talking about is one of self-sufficiency, of being able to build this network where you guys are kind of able to rely on each other for things that are, outside what you might call the mainstream way of doing things, since applying to jobs on the internet doesn't really seem to work anymore. And we're still not quite back to meeting the manager, giving him a firm handshake and looking him in the eye to get the job. That this network of people who can rely on each other and make recommendations is kind of paramount. And I'm we're all happy to see you guys being able to do that. So I guess this is a larger. This is one of the themes contained within the larger sphere of the goals of the Vetus Dominium. So you've mentioned on this kind of self-sufficiency and being able to help people with employment, but what does the future of the Vetus Dominium look like?
I should have prepared better for this. More of everything, I would like for businesses to be started between the members, owned by the members of the club. Some of our members are already small business owners, but I'm talking about new ventures. Anything we can do to make a profit and also continue to provide employment opportunities for those that are just joining us, just entering the workforce. The entry-level job market is totally screwed, and I would love, nothing more than to be able to offer the younger guys on our side of things a place to get their foot in the door, to get some skills and some experience on any number of professions we could provide the expertise for.
Yeah, I think encouraging specifically more visibility in the community service. Donating your hands and feet and your time to the community is huge. I want to see more historical tours. I think that would be a great thing. We've done 2 already. I would aim for doing 2 or 3. I think a year would be a great goal. And I think more of a digital presence. We have lots of very talented guys in the chapter when it comes to artistic ventures and making things. We have great writers. We have guys who are interested in potentially podcasting like this, or streaming, things like that. We also want to do something equivalent to what the OGC does every year, an event type thing. So we've got a lot of different ideas in the pipeline in our chapter chat, and I think we're headed in a good direction.
Yeah, the event ideas is sounds like a good one to me. So how do you guys normally get together? Like, so when you get together to see each other, to do the historical tours, to do the chicken slaughtering, to do the other such things that are not for the squeamish or the faint of heart. How often are you guys able to put these things on? Like so we're talking about getting to know your members, getting to know your brothers. Is this something that you find that a lot of your membership has time for, or is this what are some of the challenges? I know these are a lot of questions all at once, so take them in any order you choose.
They're all related, and I think I'll go through them all at once as well. So about 2/3 of the chapter are family men. So we have already secured the next generation, but that precludes them from being regularly available for, say, drop of the hat meetups at a bar or whatever. They need sufficient planning and warning in advance that a meetup is happening. And we have, group chats for the explicit purpose of planning such meetups. A metric I try to use is that, the club should be doing a big chapter event that involves the majority of the members once a month. Now, do we always hit that metric? Not really, but it's a good metric to have. Smaller scale meetups, like the aforementioned, bar crawl or restaurant, they happen pretty much weekly, but, in each locality that has a concentration of members.
Yeah, I think as Harvey said, you really have to giving people notice, I think, is the most important thing when you're trying to organize these things. And I know it's like a meeting having dinner at a bar isn't exactly the most planning intensive thing where you think you would just be able to drop it and go. But different people are at different stages of their lives and have different things going on. So it's best if you're going to be doing these sort of things. Maybe even coming up with some sort of rhythm where we're gonna meet at this place on the second of the month or whatever the case may be. Just giving people, what I find is you give people advance notice. They're able to plan not only they're able to plan to go to it, but then they're able to plan other things around what you're trying to do.
All right, so consistency seems to be kind of a key. So I'm sure that you guys have mentioned some of the things that the chapter has done so far. But besides the organizing for the Hurricane Helene, have you guys had any like things you would consider accomplishments, the things that you're proud of, that you can say the Vetus Dominion did this?
Well, let's see. I'm blanking here.
I mean, I'm obviously proud of the Helene thing. I'm proud of I'm proud of some of the things we're doing behind the scenes, including something that I can't talk about yet. But it's something that we will be talking about very shortly. One of those things where you don't want to say anything until you've got everything good to go. But there is something.
This podcast is a very unfortunate timing. If it were like a couple weeks later, we could have announced something very big. But all I can say is watch this space.
Watch this space, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of effort going on that right now. I'm proud of the Elaine stuff. I'm proud of the expansion that we made in terms of membership. We've expanded quite a bit from where we were, and I'm proud of the guys. And I think most of all, I'm proud to be associated with these men. I'm proud that I myself, as a man, with all the flaws that I have, that they would look to me in a position of leadership.
And that's really what this is about, right? Brotherhood is about accepting your brothers and helping to elevate them. And I think what you guys have been describing so far tonight is that you're absolutely doing exactly that. One of the things you had mentioned earlier, and we're really changing gears again, is some of the historical events you guys have been on. Now, do you have people in the organization who are, obviously somewhat history inclined, but people who would really be buffs? Do you guys do tours? Do you go on expand a little bit on those sorts of historical things you take?
Yeah, unfortunately, we did kind of do a deep dive on that during your absence. But I'm looking at him in the chat right now, Mr. Paul Fahrenheit, very much a history buff in our club. Even though he's a member of the Central Committee, he pops in to Virginia whenever we're hosting events and offers his own expertise. We also have a number of members that are also history buffs, military history, everything.
Yeah, I think, speaking for myself, my interest is specifically in American history, and then even more specific than that, although I am interested generally in American history, in the history of Virginia as an entity, which is very interesting to me. And of course, as you may know, Curtis, we have the coming of the 250th anniversary of the founding of this country. And Virginia was central to those events in the Revolutionary War, and that's something that I am very passionate about.
Yeah, as the 250 anniversary gets closer, you can expect our level of activity, especially for the historical events side of things, to massively increase. We might even try to match some of the events that similar organizations like the Sons of the American Revolution are doing. Trying to think, what is the most earliest event in Virginia that happens during the Revolution? I'm blanking so hard right now.
It depends if you're talking about like a battle.
Yeah.
The battle of Great Bridge is pretty.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Great Bridge, which is in our neck of the woods. So yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, and obviously other historical societies are already covering these events, but we would be interested in potentially assisting them. those sort of societies are generally understaffed, and just a few dedicated, loyal older men help run the events, and it's very very time consuming. So if you're willing to lend a hand in that respect, just to help set things up or whatever, if you reach out to one of the organizers of those events, and you can see all of these events in your own state. Your own state will have their own 250 Commission website. The VA has their own. It's va250.org. But each state has their own website for their own 250 Commission, and they'll have a list of events on there. And you'll be able to learn about them, and also see who's organizing it, and reach out to those organizers.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like you guys have a lot of things going on, a lot of things in the pipeline. Which brings up something else that you had mentioned, Harvey. With all of these things going on, all these things planned, and things that you want to be able to release at the right time and to the appropriate fanfare. How do you guys handle things like OPSEC and with the optics of the things that you're doing?
Well, we got to keep it American. If it ain't American, it ain't right, and it doesn't belong on an OGC chapter's optics at all. And that is just kind of the policy I've been loyal to. So when we are in public at these events, we conduct ourselves with the utmost appropriate behavior. We always dress well. Any of these conferences in our sphere, it's always business formal, black tie optional, that sort of thing. You got to get a good suit, and we know a guy that does suits too.
Yeah, there's no excuse. So if you manage to find yourself at an OGC conference in the future, you should definitely hit up the man, the tailor there. He's an excellent tailor. I have a suit for him, and it's quite great. But yeah, I agree with Harvey. I'm very passionate about American history, and American heritage and Virginian heritage, and that is my focus. And I think if we remain in that sort of in those headlights, in that path, we'll be doing well. And I think in terms of OPSEC, I mean, the way that I see it is each individual has their own risk-reward tolerance, right? They have their own life that they're living with family, not a family, whatever the case may be. They have their own sphere of responsibility, and that means that they have their own risks that they can feel comfortable taking or not taking. And that's a decision that each individual member needs to make, but we will not take actions to force them, obviously, into anything.
That's right. And thanks for bringing that up. I totally forgot the second half of that question.
It's okay. That's why I'm here.
So for being the oldest of the chapters means that you guys have run into every conceivable problem that there is so far. And if you had any advice from the things that you guys have struggled with operating the chapter, or getting things done within it, if you had any advice for the other chapters, what would you say is some of the most important things that they should be paying attention to?
Okay. So as we may know in the audience, the minimum number of guys you need to form a chapter is 5. But just because you've achieved that minimum number doesn't mean you should just then rush to form your chapter immediately. Because one thing I found is 5 guys is probably not enough to actually run a chapter efficiently. You need at least a dozen guys that are going to put in a significant amount of effort on a weekly basis. So that was a big challenge for us, being the first. Of course, we incorporated with the minimum number. And as we slowly grew, that problem became less and less apparent. But yeah, early on, things were very slow, because we didn't have many guys, and the guys we did not have a lot of time to contribute to the club.
That's right. And, 5 guys is a great number to run a burger joint, but not a great number to run a chapter.
Right.
Is what I would like to say. And I kind of alluded to it before, right? A lot of these existing civic society organizations, there's this thing called the Pareto principle, which is I think you have an organization, and then it's like 10% of the members actually do something, and that's something that you generally want to avoid. I think Harvey's done a great job at avoiding that pitfall in our chapter specifically. But that's something that all existing chapters, anyone wanting to form a chapter, is just going to have to be aware of. And I think the OGC is going to see it eventually, right? As we expand, as we grow. At some point, you will run into that problem at some point. But it's just important to try to mitigate it by just keeping everyone to standards of activity, making sure that people are involved, looking for ways to get people involved, right? All of these men of great character have skills and have talents to bring to your chapters. You have to get to know them, and you have to figure out what those things are.
Right. And put them to good use. Another challenge, being the first chapter, we did not really enforce the regular chapter business meeting rule at the beginning. And that is a confession, because I was supposed to do that from the beginning, but I didn't. And rectifying that was an extreme challenge, to get everybody to regularly show up on the business calls. Finally, only recently, within the past 7 or 8 months, have achieved quorums at these regular business meetings. And we also had to reduce the cadence a little bit recently as well. It became excessive for the family men to have to step away from their family every single weekend, for an hour or two.
How do you mean reduce the cadence? You mean keep it shorter, or?
Yeah, keep it to a strict time frame, 1 hour. If it goes over, whatever's on the agenda goes to the next week. And also, this just happened recently. We reduced our meetings to every other week instead of every week. And that kind of puts more emphasis on the individual meetings themselves and gets, people time to schedule around them.
Well, that's great. So I think that what we'll find as the show goes on is that there's going to be a lot of the same issues are going to be recurring. And so any advice that you guys can give is really great. As far as getting people active, so do you find that it's more important to have active people that are in the organization who are already more inclined to be active, or that you are able to get the people who are inactive active through encouragement or some other means?
We've had success in both fields, I would say. Most of the people that want to join the club are themselves already at a baseline level of activity, willing to put forward their time and energy into the club. Some join and then they're not sure where they fit in yet, and it takes a little bit of time for them to settle into being a member, and that's fine. There's always a learning period. Just to kind of wrap back to the previous point, the biggest piece of advice I would say to new chapters is pick a meeting time, date, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, and stick to it and enforce it. Okay? I had to kick a member out because they would serially not attend the meetings. And so I think that really was a wake-up call for the remainder. You get a live fire execution, everyone starts paying attention.
Yeah.
It has to be standards maintained. So would you say that for the meetings and getting proper attendance, it's as much constancy as anything else?
Yes. People must be able to build it into their schedule, expect the same thing every week, or whatever period you decide. So it's not a surprise that it's coming. Everybody sees it on their calendar, and there's no excuse not to show up.
So do you guys have a codified, like these are the number of absences you're allowed to have before you're in trouble? Or was it just a kind of a, well, this guy hasn't put in any effort at all and it's been however many months, so we'll just let him go?
Yeah, our membership committee is currently working on codifying those rules into our code of conduct. I could pull it up, but it might take a moment. I should know the numbers. I think it's something like 4 consecutive absences or missing 40% of the meetings in a calendar year qualifies you for, losing your membership status. And then, of course, the person I kicked out of the club kind of by executive order had not even shown up in like 4 months straight. So it was beyond time to do something about that individual.
Yeah. I think a sort of an understanding of context and sitting down with the member, getting an idea of why this isn't happening, and also reevaluation of our cadence.
Mm-hmm.
All these different things combined, lead to making a decision on that matter. The fact was that while when the club was getting started, it was a good idea to meet very regularly. Once the club was in a more on solid ground, it was a bit excessive. So we decided to pull back on meeting every week. And as Harvey said, that was difficult for some members in terms of dedicating an hour or two of the week to this every single week. So yeah. I think that keeping that in mind, and once you do something like that, it shows the membership that, hey, this isn't a punishment. The meetings aren't designed to just suck up your time. The meetings are designed to do something productive, and that's why we want you to be there.
So this brings up another a question that I had about, you said you have a very large number of family men in the organization, and I know that trying to expect time dedication from men who have young children is quite difficult. But do you find that over time, as you guys have gotten to know each other a little bit more and gotten closer as a brotherhood, that they're able to kind of massage their time so they can make it more frequently, or has it been kind of steady?
Absolutely. So yeah, quite a few of them have introduced their wives to the club. So we're not just some anonymous strangers their husband is taking up all their free time on the internet. Like, we are known to the families. In fact, we try to make an effort to make our events family friendly, and this has had some success as well. Some of our members bring their entire families to our events.
That's right.
I'm glad to see that's replicated, because you both have met my fiance now, and
right.
She's been to a couple of our events. She's very impressed by all the hard work that the younger guys, you guys have been putting in. So I'm glad that this is something that extends to all to more of the chapters, that it can be it's not just a group for young disaffected incels, but for the whole disaffected family.
Yeah. For any disaffected American male, right?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It seems like, the single men like myself just have more time to dedicate to running the club, and that's kind of why we ended up as officers. Speaking a little more organizationally speaking, each Old Glory Club has a minimum of 4 officer positions, but I felt there needed to be a different layer between officer and regular member. and this was achieved in the creation of what is called the committee chairman position. We have several committees in the club, which are just voluntary. You can join if you want to contribute to any committee, like a membership committee, art and music, communications, event planning committee, etc. And one thing that really, I think, helped get some of the less involved members more involved was giving them these new positions of power and saying, hey, you're the event guy. You're the event committee chairman. What are we doing this month? I want to see this. Can you do it? And giving them that like clarity of action of what their role is supposed to be in the club, I think has been very successful.
Perfect. So delegating responsibility to your brothers definitely seems to be a thing to get them more involved, is what you're saying.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, that is the second piece of advice. Do not be afraid to delegate. In fact, you must do it, because if you're trying to, carry the whole club on your back, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and in fact, I'll build on that, and that the committee system is just the obvious way to go. It's employed in other similar organizations where you have a committee, sometimes a committee of one, but the guy will be the committee chair of that committee and will be responsible for it.
Right.
And that in that way, you could make someone a committee chair who isn't an officer and doesn't have the time to be an officer, but can dedicate some part of their time to that specific committee.
Perfect. I think this is all wonderfully actionable advice for our other chapters and our younger guys coming in. I appreciate you guys coming on. Let's take a look at these super chats real quick, and we will get out of here. So the first one tonight, Solid Snake, our fastest soldier, for $3. Good evening, my OGC brethren. Howdy. From the Home Range Society. Looking forward to listening to this later and to learn some stuff from you guys. If any of you are ever in Kansas, hit us up to meet. Salute. Well, we salute you, Solid Snake. The whole point of this organization is to be able to do exactly that. Wander around in the United States and meet brothers wherever you are. So thank you for that. Paladin YYZ with a very generous $50. Thank you, sir. Rest in peace, Z-Man. Yes, I think we're all very saddened by the news, and all very lucky for those of us who were able to meet him at the event this year. So that's a little somber note, but thank you, Paladin. And finally, Son of Haster for $20. This is our new Ivy League president. Salute. See you soon, fellas. Well, not soon enough. All right, and that's it for the super chats. Harvey, Ducat, do you guys have any parting shots before we get the show on the road here?
Watch this space. We are on the verge of a big announcement. Unfortunately, it wasn't 100% ready tonight, but it will be very soon. And I'm looking forward to sharing it with you all.
That's right. An announcement that could be a show in itself. And we hope to talk about it for a while afterwards. And that's pretty much it. I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank Harvey for just being the driving force for this chapter. Very appreciative of all the work that he's put in. I personally haven't always had the time to dedicate myself as much as I would like, but hopefully that is changing, and I hope to be just as beneficial to the chapter.
All right, thank you, Harvey. Thank you, Ducat, and thank you to the Vetus Dominium chapter out of Virginia for getting the Old Glory Club started.